Hi guys, I'm immigration attorney Ann Sudkey, and this is part 2 of our naturalization segment. In part 1, we had discussed at the end about different exemptions to the naturalization exam, which includes the English and the civics portion of the naturalization exam. So today we're going to be discussing possible exemptions for people not to take the English or the civics portion of the exam if you are eligible. So let's begin with a very common question that I get in my office, which is if I have a medical issue where I cannot study for the English portion or the history portion of the exam. Now, the medical exemption under immigration rules is very specific and it's not easy to apply for, although some people think it is, but it is actually very specific and it has to be submitted at the time of your naturalization application. These rules have changed over time, whereas in the past you were able to actually bring in the medical exemption form at the time of your interview, but now you actually have to file that form at the same time as your citizenship application. So let's talk a little bit about the medical exemption form and what is needed to be done. Now, there are people that actually have medical disabilities that can prevent them from being able to study the history questions and be able to respond. Some people have a hard time being able to read the questions. There are a number of medical reasons why someone is not able to take the exam, but that should not actually preclude them from being able to naturalize. So there is a special form that needs to be filled out by a physician that can certify that you have or you are suffering from a medical disability that is preventing you from being able to take the exam. Now, this form, it has to be very, very specific in the details that are written. And this doctor generally needs to be someone who has actually seen you for a period of time and can actually certify that you have this medical disability. It cannot be a doctor who has seen you for just a day or two and fills out the form. And this is often what I see in my office. So the medical form needs to be filled out and signed by the physician. And 2, it needs to be filed at the same time as your naturalization application. Now, there is an exemption to this. And that is when the medical disability or the medical issue has been discovered or occurs after you have already applied for naturalization. For instance, and this is just an example, is that if someone is in a car accident and suffers a medical issue that prevents them from being able to read the questions or study the questions, then this is something that could be included in the medical exemption form. I recently had a client who had a head trauma, and that, of course, affected his ability to be able to study. So the form was based on that, signed off by a physician, and submitted at the time of the application. Moving away from the medical exemption, let's talk about age exemptions. As we know, and what I've seen is that there are certain people who are at a certain age that it is hard for them to be able to study the same way as someone who, let's say, is in their 20s. So there are exemptions that are made for people who are of a certain age and who have also been a green card holder for a certain number of years. There are 2 that actually allow you to be exempt from the English portion of the exam and be able to take the civics or the history portion of the exam in your native language. And this applies to people who are 50 years of age and who have had a green card for at least 20 years, or people who are 55 years old and have had a green card for at least 15 years. So again, these 2 age exemptions are for people to be exempt from the English portion of the exam and be able to take the civics exam in their native language. Now, the third age exemption is the 65-year-old who has had their green card for more than 20 years. Now, those individuals get even a special consideration because they are exempt from the English portion of the exam and they are actually able to take a shortened version of the civics or history exam in their native language. So rather than having the full, 6 questions, they might ask them something shorter, and they will actually study from a shorter study guide. The last topic I'd like to talk about is the disability accommodations. Now, this is for people who do actually have a physical disability. Now, it doesn't actually exempt you from the exam, but it is also very important to be aware that if someone has a physical impairment, is not able to go to an interview because they can't walk or they're wheelchair bound, or some people are actually in the hospital, that USCIS will make certain accommodations, such as sending a USCIS officer to your location to be able to give you the naturalization exam at the place that you're in. It's very important that when you come to apply for naturalization and you are filling out that form, that you are aware of different exemptions that you might be eligible for, or different accommodations that USCIS could provide in the case that you have a physical disability. That should not prevent you from becoming a U.S. citizen. I hope that you found this video helpful. Subscribe to the channel. Write your comments and your topics on what you'd like me to discuss, and I'll be sure to respond to you. See you next time.